Hello everyone, this is part 2 of the Until the End of the World tutorial. I'm going to take you through my Axe-FX preset and effect settings. For the cover in part 1, I used Fractal Audio Systems Axe-FX Ultra for the entire song. No other effects, pedals, etc. were used. I probably spent more time on this preset than any other preset because it took me a while to model the Boss OD2 pedal. I actually did purchase an OD2 and I compared it to my Axe preset to hone in on the right tone, and I think I came very, very close. It's probably never possible to come 100%, but in this case I'm probably 95, 98% plus there. And in a tutorial later I will do a sound sample of the OD2 versus the Axe-FX and show you how close you can actually get and how you can use the Axe-FX to model pretty much any pedal out there. But it does take time. You have to be patient. There are a lot of parameters in the Axe-FX, and they're very powerful, but it just takes time comparing and listening, stepping away for a little bit, and then retweaking your tones and your parameters. So here's the preset. Let's go to the layout. The first block you see there is a Para EQ. I'll go through that in a minute. I did not use this block on my cover. It's in here essentially if you want more of that tighter Slane tone from Slane Castle. I'm not saying that Edge uses a Para EQ or an EQ, but on Slane you definitely can hear throughout the Slane DVD, on New Year's Day, on Out of Control, on Until the End of the World, there is a more mid-ranged, tighter wah-like tone that may not be Edge's gear. It could be post-production mixing, compression, etc. It could be the mic setup. It could be many different things. I really like the sound of the Slane DVD. It's one of my favorites as far as general tone. But when you compare Slane to the 360 Tour and other clips, it's really, the tone really isn't something that's consistent across other live concerts. So if you do want to try to model and get that tone, the way I do it is I throw in a Para EQ at the beginning. You can do this for New Year's Day also. It's not suggested, and again I didn't use it, but if you do have an Axe-FX and you want to try this, you'll see that it tightens up the tone some and gets it closer to the Slane. And you'll see my my cutoff frequencies. It's essentially at 200 Hertz, at 502, at 721, at 1490, and then 2625. I left the cues at 0.707 on everything, as you'll see, 707 and all. And the gain, I got the little bit of the wah tone by upping the gain in the middle frequency. So it's 0 gain here, but you have about almost a 1 dB of gain here, and then you get 1.32 of dB there. Then it comes down again, 1 dB there, and then 0 dB. So essentially what's happened is I've boosted the mid-range frequency gains, and that gives you that tight wah-like tone. And in fact, a wah-wah pedal, or something similar, what that does is take that curve and it as you press on the pedal, that frequency curve narrows and becomes very slim, and the gain goes up in the middle. So essentially the two sides of that curve would come in and it'd be very narrow, but the peak would go up, the gain would go higher. And then when you push the pedal the other way, that curve widens and the gain comes down, and that's where you get that wah-wah type tone. So if you take this curve and make it dynamic and change the parameters in real time, that's essentially what a wah-wah pedal does, as far as my understanding. I could be wrong. I haven't analyzed it in detail, but I think that's correct. So, again, I did not use this for my cover, but just so you know, that is in the preset if you'd like to try it out. This drive is the main drive of the song. It is my OD2 model. I used the BB Pre. It's the best drive model within the axe for the OD2. So BB Pre. I got the drive there at about 2.8. Got the tone 4.884, level 4.25, the mix 96.5. That's essentially 100%. I usually just try to mix in a little bit of clean tone, but you're really not going to tell the difference. It's probably enough to make a difference. So that's page 1 on the drive. Page 2, this is important. This is where you can do a lot of modeling. You can take the BB Pre, you can take any drive, you can set these parameters here, the basic tone and the level, but when you really want to start making big changes, you have to go to page 2, and the low and the high cut have a lot to do with the tone you're going to get. And here, as you can see, the BB Pre is a pretty low range. It's got a very low bottom end. So you have to cut the low bottom end here at 600 or so. And then the high I brought down to 2532, and again, so you're tightening up and getting those mid-ranges. The clip type, I used the silicon diode. I left the slew halfway, the bias at 0, bypass mode mix is 0%. So these are really key, the low and the high cut. And again, when I do it later on, I'll compare this to the OD2 or one of my other presets, which is purely exactly OD2. This one I tweaked a little bit to match up some of the live tone I was hearing in some of the covers. So it might not be exactly the pedal, but it's really close. So these two things here were very key to modeling the OD2 and being the BB Pre. Then there's another page, EQ, and I took off just a little more bass by half a dB. Mid, I boosted half a dB. Mid frequency, I adjusted here just a little bit to 772 Hertz, and the treble I left alone. And that generally, with all those parameters, essentially models the OD2. Now you can change, all you have to do is change the high and low cut, and you'll get a totally different sound. That's how powerful the Axe FX is.
Knock it off.